If you've been told that the only way to succeed in your exams is to give up your life, not do anything fun, not go out with friends or have hobbies or interests, you must watch this video, because I will show you how you can still enjoy your life, have a social life and friends, and still ace your exams and be a successful person. Who am I to tell you about that? My name is Malki Assad. I'm a plastic surgery resident in the US, and when I was in medical school, I consistently ranked first in my class and scored in the 99th percentile of the US licensing exams, and still did not give my hobbies or my social life. And that's what I will show you in this video on how to study smarter, not harder. The first secret to successful smart studying is focusing on what is high yield. Most of the exams follow the 80-20 principle, which means generally 80% of the questions come from 20% of the main concepts. So by focusing on what is important and is generally tested, you're generally guaranteeing yourself a pass or even a high score. I can tell you stories and stories from my medical school time where I see my colleagues waste their time and energy on things that are very unlikely to show on the exam, versus me, where I focus my main energy on the high yield topics that are likely to be tested on the exam, and I dedicate a small amount of energy to the rest of the stuff. But you might ask, how can I know what is important and what is not? What is high yield and what is low yield? There are multiple ways to do that. First, if you're someone who benefits from attending lectures, generally the instructor, if that's the same person who's gonna write the questions, will focus on what is important. They won't spend 20 or 30% of the lecture on something that is unlikely to be shown on the exam. The amount of time they spend explaining something will correlate with what they like to test you on the real exam, and that can help direct your focus and energy to what the instructor wants you to focus on. One thing here to keep in mind is that I'm someone who does not always recommend attending lectures. Not all the lectures are helpful. Not all the lectures can help you benefit and learn what is important and what is not. And in that case, it might be better not to attend the lecture. I understand that each school has certain requirements of what you can attend and what you can skip, but attending lectures goes in the essence of what I'm talking about by focusing on what is high yield and low yield. Because attending the lecture itself, which might be an hour or two or even a whole day, might be low yield, and you using that time to focus on something that is higher yield gives you better return on your time, which can be just reading the lecture itself, can give you a better outcome. Another very important way of identifying what is high yield and what is low yield is prior questions. Most schools and universities give you access to prior year exams, or they give you a question bank that is similar to prior year exams. So by solving these or even studying from these, you can identify what are these topics that are repeated multiple times, and you can start to identify the topics that are high yield and more likely to be tested compared to other lower yield topics. And finally, by studying the material itself. However, this is the hardest way to identify high yield topics, because the instructor or the examiner can be testing anything from that material. But if they are reasonable, they're generally testing things that are either showing multiple time in that curriculum or that book that you're studying, or testing things that are more of an impact. So let's say you're studying cardiology, for example, and there is a whole chapter about heart failure, a whole chapter about myocardial infarction. I'm sure there is a chapter about rare diseases. If the instructor is reasonable, they're more likely to test you on things that differentiate two things compared to a rare genetic disorder. But this is, as I said, the hardest way to figure out what is important and what is not, and is best linked by looking at prior year exams, because it's very subjective to the person writing the questions. You need to see their style by looking at the prior year exams, which will definitely help you identify what is important and what is not. The second secret to smart studying is minimizing fake studying. And what do I mean by that? I'm sure you've been in this situation where you're sitting for hours assuming that you're studying, but in reality nothing is entering your brain. So trying to minimize that fake studying and increasing actual effective studying is definitely a key in giving you your time back, so you can get your outcome from studying and use that extra time to have fun and have a social life and enjoy your hobbies or whatever you want to do. How can you do that? First, you have to minimize distractions. So these days, social media and your phone is your biggest enemy to effective studying. The whole algorithm of these platforms is to keep you on your phone. They want you to keep scrolling and scrolling so you can spend the maximum screen time on your phone. So my advice to you is to limit how much time you can spend on these platforms and turn off all notifications and keep your phone away when you're studying. Second, have an effective break system, and they can't just sit in front of a book for hours without being bored. So for these people, take effective breaks between each study period, and that will vary significantly based on each person. Some students prefer to study effectively fully focused for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break, while others like me prefer to study a full hour and then take a 5 or 10-minute break. Others study for 4 hours straight and then take a 2 or 3 hour break. So the break system you build will depend on how long you can go without feeling bored, how effective studying focused you can do before taking the break before feeling bored, and how much break time you need to rest before going back to studying. By the way, if you're a medical student interested in coming to the US and need help with your USMLE exams, we have phenomenal tutors who can help you get the high score you're looking for. We help with study planning, study schedule, study resources, and also subject-specific tutoring to help explain topics to you that might be difficult to understand. We are so confident in our tutors and tutoring service that we can give you your money back if you're not satisfied after the first hour. And you can sign up to our USMLE tutoring service by clicking on the link in the card above or the description below. And finally, have goals. If you have a goal for each hour of studying, for each study break, for each day, you're less likely to procrastinate and not do real effective studying. While if you just play it by ear, your mind will get distracted, you don't have a goal that you're trying to achieve, and your productivity would go down. So have small attainable goals for each study period, for each day of studying, and that will help boost your mentality to work hard to achieve that goal. The third secret to effective smart studying is making studying a habit. I see students all the time, they don't study at all when the exam is 2 or 3 months away, but before the exam they don't do anything in their life. They're studying for 13-14 hours and they don't score high. So instead of cramming all the studying in the month of the exam, why don't you make studying a habit and you study maybe 6 or 8 hours a day continuously compared to studying 15 hours a day the month of the exam. Remember, exams and success in life in general is like a marathon. You have to build the stamina for it. You have to make it a habit. It's not a sprint. You have to keep running and running and running every day. However, instead of studying for 15 hours a day, you make it 6 or 7 or 8 based on how busy the schedule is and how much is needed from your school and your classes. The fourth tip for smart effective studying is active learning. I can't stress how important that is, because student A spends 6 hours of studying, goes and scores 80%. Student B spends 6 hours of studying and fails the exam. And I can tell you, they both were studying. However, one was probably retaining more information while the others was not. And active learning is one of the key components of turning the information in your mind from short term to long term. And what do I mean by active learning? Active learning, in contrast to passive learning, means you're not just reading the information. You're not just reading the book. You're trying to recall that information, which will help solidify that memory. To give you an example, let's say you read a chapter about diarrhea. What causes diarrhea, the presentation of diarrhea, what labs you use to diagnose the reasons behind the diarrhea, and how you treat a diarrhea. Student A, who does passive learning, reads that chapter and moves on with their life. Maybe if they decided to review the material, they just reread the chapter. Student B, who does active learning, reads that chapter, summarizes it in a question and answer style, and then when they come to review the material, they read the question and they try to think of the answer. They force their brain to search for that information, and even if they failed finding it and they read the answer afterwards, the memory retention from that activity is way higher than just reading it. This, which is called active recall, is the essence of active active learning. When you just read, you think you know the information? Well, because you're reading it, it's called the illusion of learning. While if you try to retrieve that information through a question and answer style, you're way more likely to remember that information later. Another way of active learning that student B does is after reading that chapter about diarrhea, student B goes and try to teach somebody about that chapter. And that somebody doesn't have to be a human being. You can just be in your room and try to summarize that chapter that you just read about in your mind or by talking loud without necessarily having someone there. Don't worry, people won't think you're crazy. So the act of teaching either to somebody or to just yourself forces your brain to re-summarize that information, retrieve that information, and that is another great way of active learning. Isn't that a great way of studying? Using the same time, which is your limited asset, you're getting way more return on your investment, way higher retention of information. That will definitely translate into a higher score. By the way, if you're a medical student interested in learning about research, I have great news for you. I did research myself for 3 years at 2 phenomenal institutions, the Mayo Clinic, which is the #1 hospital in the US, and MD Anderson Cancer Center, which is the #1 cancer center in the world, and I published over 150 papers during my 3 years of dedicated research. And I summarized all this experience in multiple courses for you. The comprehensive research course from idea to publication, which teaches you how to design a research project, how to write manuscript, how to collect data. The statistical analysis course, which teaches you how to do statistical analysis for your own research projects. The systematic review course, which teaches you about systematic reviews and meta-analysis. And finally, how to find research positions in the US, which is key if you're planning to come to the US and do research time here, because not all research positions will help you achieve your goal. So this course will teach you how to find the right mentor to help you achieve your dream of matching into residency. And by the way, all these courses are 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you're not happy, we'll give you your money back. And you can check how this course helped hundreds of students learn about research and publish their own research projects by checking the reviews on our course pages. And you can check these courses out by clicking on the link in the card above or the links in the description below. As you can see, the essence of studying smarter, not harder, is to better use your time. The older I grow, the more I realize how valuable time is and how you cannot turn the clock backwards. So you better use your time effectively and get the most out of it, and you would be on the way to studying smarter, not harder. I hope this video was insightful in opening your eyes on what you can do to study smarter, not harder. But if you have any other ideas that I missed, I would love to hear your thoughts. You can drop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to go through each one of them. If you find any value in this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your colleagues to help them study smarter, not harder. Before you leave, make sure to watch the video I recorded about question solving strategies, and you can watch it by clicking on the link here. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and good luck on your exams. Peace.